All right. You know, I wonder if when you apply for unemployment from the WWE, do you go into your local office or do you have to go into Stamford? I'm wondering if the woman at the unemployment office on her desk is going to have a picture of her homely daughter that George Costanza can butter up and get an extension. I'm wondering if all of the WWE wrestlers are going to be in the same boat. They're going to have to be dating the homely daughters of their local unemployment office representatives.
Well, you got to think the line has to at least be pretty big.
Well, I mean, somebody even for the new year, one of the sites put out an entire list of all the, 80, 90 wrestlers that were released this past year and future endeavored from this company. But this past week, it's getting ridiculous now. Just not only the public slap in the face to everything that Triple H did, and quality people being let go that could obviously aid the company just because they were hired by Triple H. But it's also, it's almost like they sit down and figure out, well, okay, what could benefit AEW most at this particular given time, and let's give them some. Because now they've given them so many wrestlers that AEW can't put them all on television. But the one thing that I think it's plain to everybody, nobody can argue, especially after this week, nobody can argue that what AEW needs and has needed for a long time is quality coaches, trainers, and potentially somebody with a booking mind. So what does WWE do? Here's the best we've got. I mean, it's almost a rib. They are addressing every single one of their competition's shortcomings by making people available. Now, sometimes the competition is not smart enough to avail themselves of these opportunities, but every time they can ascertain our competition needs something, they will immediately fire a bunch of people that fit those positions. Have you noticed this over the last few months?
Yeah.
It's almost like that Nick Khan doesn't really know how wrestling works. Imagine that. So, shall we go over the brief but shocking list of people who the WWE decided to kick out the door this week?
Yes.
Yes. Ranjan Singh. Now, apparently under an assumed name, he was also a writer for this company, but he was a manager of somebody, and he's not a booker, he's a writer. So in this case, I'm not going to argue with this choice because I couldn't pick him out of a police lineup, and any of the writers of this program should be fired, whether past, present, or potentially future. So we got that one out of the way. Timothy Thatcher. I think it was Mike Johnson on PW Insider said it best, said, well, this just goes to show that they're not interested in employing quality, talented, in-ring professional wrestlers. This guy had something, and they didn't let him show it. Remember when we were doing NXT a while back, he came in with a gimmick that he's this dangerous shooter, a throwback to the old days of the snake pit. He'll hook you, he'll stretch you. And every single time they had one of the segments on television where he was going to hook somebody, stretch somebody, the fucking schlub jobber that was supposed to be abused actually reversed, countered, or came out from under Timothy Thatcher's shit. Remember that? Then he'd get mad about it.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then they teamed him for a period of time with Tommaso Ciampa because they were somewhat similar, which may have been a reason not to put them in terms of their serious approach to in-ring work. And then he disappeared, and they never did anything really to get him over, because I can hear again the McMahon, Pritchard, Laurinaitis wing of the party. Well, he needs color. He needs personality. Let's make him a plumber. Maybe he can carry a fucking plunger or whatever. So, but again, not only a really good in-ring wrestler of a legitimate style, but also somebody who apparently has been helping out lately with the coaching. So they're keeping the wrestlers they're training and they're firing the wrestlers that are teaching them. Did you Ace Steel? I can't remember what his real name is. They gave it. But Ace Steel has been a coach there also. He's been in the business for 20-something years. He not a lot of runs at a high level in a major promotion, but he's been a fixture in Chicago. As I think he and CM Punk came up together. He's been a trainer for a long period of time. He's been involved in promoting shows up in that part of the country. Well, they let him go. There's another coach and a coach in Chicago where they go to a lot because it's the hometown of their biggest star. Did you hear about Allison Danger? This story.
I just briefly heard about this before we started recording today.
Allison Danger for the old Ring of Honor fans, but her name is Kathy Carino. She's Steve Carino's sister. And I don't want to quote when she started wrestling, but she started wrestling in, I would think, at least the early 2000s. Somewhere around that point. And she had a lot of experience. She had gotten out of the business in modern times, but obviously being family members and being a lot of your friends in the business, you're still around and involved or whatever. But they decided to pull the trigger on giving her a job as a coach for the women. And they apparently have her moved from Las Vegas just 3 months ago. It was her dream job because she's always loved the business, wanted to be involved. So she moves from Las Vegas to take this job 3 months ago. And you may know how this works more than I do, but apparently her kid just started school the first day after the New Year break. I guess they waited until a new semester or however that goes or whatever. So she's picking her kid up from school on the first day of his new school and gets a call that she's fucking fired. See you later. Go on back to Las Vegas. What? How many people, and I bet you they've learned by now, but how many people in the last year have we heard packed up and moved from some ridiculous location? Bischoff moved to Connecticut from Montana, right? Or Wyoming or wherever the fuck he's at. I assume it wasn't his only residence. I don't know if he drug his wife and everything with him. But people move across the country, sign leases on apartments, put kids in school, and because they've offered them a job and they've accepted it 3 months later. Nah, we changed our mind. Fuck you. There would be the goddamn SWAT team would be called to the lobby of Titan Tower. If I was always ready to go home once I got there and saw what it was like, but if they had suggested that I move back to fucking Tennessee in 1996, about 2 or 3 months after I'd got up there, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. I'd still be in maximum security. But that's just ridiculous. And the thing is, Vince didn't even do that in the old days when it was the wrestling business and he had control of things. They didn't have human resources. They weren't a publicly traded company. Even if he brought somebody in, unless they were just a total schlub and they fucked up on their own, if something didn't work out, I mean, a lot of guys weren't moving back in those days because they were just flying all over the country. But he would try to make somebody whole if it was a short-term thing and it didn't work out, or you had the ability, somebody in his circle, Jim Ross, Bruce Pritchard, or myself, or Jerry Briscoe, or Pat, somebody, Jack Lanza, somebody within a group of 8 or 10 people could say to him in a private setting, hey, so-and-so really got fucked around by this, so can we take care of him in some description? And it would probably happen. But this is just ridiculous and redundant and happening repeatedly. And why would anybody trust anything that they say from this point onward? Because As far as I'm concerned, if they decided that they wanted to take the step of asking Kathy Carino or anybody else, Joe fucking Schlub or Tits McGee, you want a job with us to do this for this amount of money, and they say yes, oh, you got to move from 2,000 miles away? Well, are you really sure you want to? Because we're really sure we want you to. And then if they get stuck and they got buyer's remorse, well, after 9 months or so, hey, probably in about another 3 months, you ought to be planning on being back where you came from. But at least fucking give them a goddamn chance or a run. Fuck. Anyway, I'm going to talk about the next two together because they're brothers, and one's more surprising than the other, but it just goes to show loyalty means nothing. Scott Armstrong and Road Dogg, Brian Armstrong. And I mean, Road Dogg was the head of creative of SmackDown until about a year and a half ago when he finally said, I can't fucking take this anymore because they're all screamed and yelled at, and didn't retire, but moved over to full-time work in NXT because, again, they had a nice little working environment, apparently, from what we can understand down there. And it was Triple H's team, and Road Dogg and Triple H are friends. The DX connection, go back years, the whole 9 yards. Scott has been a referee for him. And again, who makes less news, first of all, than Scott Armstrong? You never hear anything bad. He's been in the wrestling business for 40 years. He's got all this experience. He's done everything from wrestle to referee to book shows to promote shows. Quality employee, shows up, does what he's supposed to do. No bad habits, no bad reports. No, probably because, well, he's going to be pissed off if he has to hang around without his brother. But again, Road Dogg. All the people they've got in that company now that couldn't fucking tell a wrist lock from a wristwatch, and the experience and the knowledge that Road Dogg has just of what's going on and how to fucking perpetrate this shit, and the fact that he was one of the closest people to Triple H, along with somebody else we're going to talk about in a second. And you mentioned Shawn Michaels earlier in the program. Did he move to Florida from Texas? I can't believe he did.
I don't know.
So is he only there part-time? Is he just come in for the TV? What goes on there? He's not only a WWE Hall of Famer, so was Road Dogg and DX, but also Michaels, that's a name. Nick Khan may say, oh, well, he's like one of our big stars from the past, so we shouldn't cut him. We'll do something else there.
Even old man Vince would protect Shawn still, I think.
Well, I was about to say, even old man Vince, but Shawn may be bulletproof because of his name and what he's done there in the past. And also, Nick Khan wasn't around when he was doing all the shit he did there in the past, so he probably doesn't hate Shawn Michaels like everybody that was there when he was doing all that shit. But every other member of Triple H's team, including, next up, 2 more members of it, Samoa Joe. They fired Samoa Joe last year, and immediately Triple H hired him back because apparently they hadn't consulted him on that. So Triple H hires him back for NXT. They have the fiasco with Karrion Kross where they put the belt on him and then had to get it off of him. So they put Joe back in the ring to get the belt off of him. It was a great match. Then Karrion Kross goes to the main roster where he's split up from Scarlett and marginalized and made look like an idiot and then fired. Samoa Joe never defends the NXT title, even though he's probably in ring one of the 2 or 3 best champions they've ever had. Instead, he relinquishes it because of an injury that we still have not been told what it was. He wrestled just fine, never wrestled again, and now they fire him again. This guy can't be a coach. This guy can't be a trainer. This guy, he's done commentary. He's well-spoken. Plus, he could still go in the ring because he just had a match with Karrion Kross, 6 months ago. Can you imagine Samoa Joe and Powerhouse Hobbs? Samoa Joe if he's still motivated, if he doesn't just hate the wrestling business after what he's been through, he knows all the young guys. He's a generation ahead of most of the guys in AEW, but he knows how to work with younger guys, and he's impeccable in the ring for his fucking gimmick. But they can't find any way in the WWE to utilize Samoa Joe. But meanwhile,
Mandy Rose has a helicopter.
Mandy Rose has a helicopter, and Joe Gacy has a stooge. And if, just to make sure that Triple H got every goddamn lump of coal that was left in every single one of his stockings, they fired William Regal. William Regal, potentially the best combination trainer, talent scout, guru, mentor figure to almost everybody they've put through there for the last 10 years. Or however longer than that. Who knows how long? And again, what does AEW need? Trainers and coaches and teachers. And they've just let some of the best go. And not only that, but with Regal, he means so much to such a great amount of the stars that have come through for the last however long. They're not going to like that. They're not going to like, they've already said on Twitter they can't believe, in some cases, it depends on who it is, how far they can go with what they say. They can't believe it and what he's meant to them. So that's an incredible acquisition that the other company could turn around and pick up, and they've got a direct pipeline on a personal basis to someone that a majority of the modern day WWF talent trusts. It's fucking insane. Regal could recruit talent for Tony Khan for the next 10 years and not get in everybody that would want to come for him. And nobody's even brought that up, by the way. Oh, what a great guy he is. What a great trainer he is. Nobody's talked about that. They've just given Tony Khan a skeleton key to their goddamn talent closet. And while we're on the subject of coaches, trainers, and teachers, and we said they could do with a few less writers, but now there's an actual booker available, Gabe Sapolsky. And I've got to be honest, I've always got along with Gabe for the most part. There was one point in time when we were trying to help him in Ring of Honor. He was doing Evolve, and he didn't believe it. It hurt my feelings. He thought I was trying to swerve him. But he's more of a wrestling booker than he is a writer. In his early Ring of Honor days, it was a lot of the indie stuff, a lot of the smaller guys and blah, blah, blah. But he did put them in stories that people could latch on to. It just wasn't, that talent and that style was not mainstream, and it never really got mainstream. But at the same time, that after 5 years of booking Ring of Honor, then he ran his own promotions. He learned through successes and failures how to do that. And then they ended up buying Evolve because of the indie and underground talent that he had fostered there, that they wanted to bring into the NXT system because they made their own Ring of Honor. And he's learned now from working for a major company with a budget, with major television production. So you can't mean to tell me that now Gabe, with a wrestling mind and a mind that's more of a booker than a writer, that has also worked for a company this size, done major league television production like that, and learned some of the things that you have to learn, unfortunately, in this day and age, when you're not just a territory booker, but you're with the big boys, Pinocchio. How the fuck is he not going to be more valuable than Tony Khan, the amateur booker of the year from his basement, who has never done this before for anyone? I'm not saying let Gabe run the company, Tony, but god damn, You're just out of medical school, barely, and you've got a patient that may flatline. Do you want to take him, or do you, or just so happens, well, there's this guy that's been a heart surgeon for 20 years. Let me see what he thinks. So again, this is a wrestling war that both sides on the outside, from anybody that has experience in the wrestling business, looks like they're trying to lose on purpose. WWE gives them all the talent they need. They pick up on most of it. But then they put that same talent that they needed drastically on TV with other guys that look like they should be headlining the local cable access program, so they devalue part of that. But then the WWE said, well, we dodged a bullet there. They didn't use all the talent to the best of their abilities, so let's give them some goddamn trainers so that talent won't be so fucking amateur bullshit anymore, and we'll learn how to do this stuff. But we'll hide and watch. He won't pick up half the fucking trainers, and the ones he do will not, the ones he does won't be the ones he should, because that side's still trying to lose on purpose. It's a goddamn clusterfuck. It's a four-finger stinker. What do you think, Brian?
I mean, there's a lot of things to think about here, but one of the issues is there's now a ton of people, good and bad, but a ton of people with wrestling backgrounds, wrestling experience, major wrestling company experience on the open market. Tony has an unlimited checkbook. Let's not make any mistakes about that, but I think even he realizes he can't hire everyone. He may try, but I think he knows he can't. That's the interesting thing. You look at a William Regal and you say, yeah, he's going to end up in AEW. There's no way he won't. Because you know what? He'll be an incredibly valuable asset behind the scenes. And the workers like him. Gabe Sapolsky, you bring someone like that in, that ruffles some feathers. He's not popular with everyone. William Regal's popular with everyone. You bring him in.
I did forget that this company also more than ever is a popularity promotion where everybody has to be well-liked instead of good at their job.
But as WWE's going through its menopause right now and having its changes...
changes!
The question becomes, what happens with all these people? We've talked in the last several months about the need for a well-funded, serious third promotion right now for this very reason. Tony Khan can't hire everyone. He already doesn't get a lot of these guys on TV. WWE is getting rid of people and looking for people who don't have wrestling experience. What happens now to all these people? It's kind of the shrinking of an industry in some ways.
Yes. And that's been the problem that a lot of people thought that AEW is supposed to alleviate. Well, there's no alternative. There's no place for guys to go except the Evil Empire. Well, now there's no place to go except for the Evil Empire or the Amateur Hour. But I'll tell you what, Tony Khan could pick up another 20 people easily by just doing the logical, sensible business thing. To quote Carrie Silken, what am I running? Make-A-Wish, and fire some people of his own. Because he has still on his roster of his YouTube extravaganzas and, tapings they do in closets somewhere and people see him on their cell phones. He's still got a bunch of people that there's no way in the world that they could benefit the WWE, or would they be interested in them in the WWE, that might go out and work some independent promotions, and maybe in a few years something might turn on with them and they might be worth a shit. But right now they aren't. And you could free up, I'm sure I've heard some of the ridiculous amounts that Tony Khan was paying some of these guys when he first started signing them. As I've mentioned, 5 times more than any other indie promotion would ever pay any of these people. So you've got to think that if you cut 20, what's 20 times $100,000 a year? You save a couple $1 million, and you'd never know who he cut. If he just cut 20 people, you'd never know they were gone unless you looked for them, because he's got that many people and that many unimportant people. He's just too fucking nice.
Well, that's what it is. I don't know if it's a case of too fucking nice or what you call it. It's different for wrestling. he's not cutting anyone unless there's a cause, like a Jimmy Havoc situation. He's letting the contracts run out of the people he's not going to bring back, but he's not actually firing anyone. So he's a more compassionate boss when it comes to thinning out his roster. So instead of firing a Marco Stunt a year ago, he's going to let his contract run out in a couple months.
I thought he was gone already.
He's still under contract. That's
Seriously?
my point. That's my point, I believe. I just read an article this morning that he was under contract.
Just wad money up, drive down the interstate, and throw it out the fucking window. And at the end of your trip, you'll have the same thing as you've got when you hired Dwarf Dong Sucker. I know somebody's out there going, well, he's mad at one promotion because they're firing people. He's mad at the other promotion because he won't fire them. Here's the problem. People that the WWE is firing, in large parts, shouldn't actually get fired. And also, since they're a billion-dollar corporation making record profits through the middle of a pandemic, But in the case of AEW, now that they are trying to, and in some cases succeeding, to present a product that looks like a real promotion, they've got a bunch of guys that should have never been signed in the first place, that weren't ready, that may never be ready, and are not good enough to be in this spotlight. And that is a good enough reason, since he's already paid them for a year or two, to say, you know what? Call me in a couple of years. We'll revisit this. Grow up. See you later. Because it's been charity money that they've got so far. They've added nothing to the company. And these morons are going to be the ones that are remembered as, the building blocks of AEW. We were here at the start. Yeah. And that's why for the first year, everybody thought you were a goddamn dog and pony show. Because that's all we were looking at was you outlaw mud show fucks.
No, you know what it's going to be? All the people that Tony kept under contract for a few years, well past the point where he should have cut them, those are going to be the people that do the shoot interviews and say, I was held back, I wasn't used properly, they kept me on the YouTube show, I couldn't get TV time. That's what you're going to see, I think.
They held that legless guy back. They only took one of them.
Yeah, because no one's going to say, look, I really didn't deserve the deal, and I'm just so thankful they gave me 3 years of making ridiculous money. I'm now going to go back to the high school gym this weekend. No one's going to say that. All of a sudden, the narrative is going to be how AEW screwed up all these talented people that couldn't make it anywhere.
Well, anyway, the WWE has bid goodbye to a significant portion of their NXT coaching and training and background staff, and we'll see what happens from here. But
at this point, should they get rid of the term NXT? Should they just completely rebrand the whole thing?
Why not? Because who gives a shit at this point? It's just it's bad training school wrestling on big budget television. Now with Braun Breaker and Tommaso Ciampa. And poor Roderick Strong, who's thinking, oh, goddamn, the other three are over there and I'm fucking here. But if Tony Khan does not hire William Regal, he's out of his mind. Samoa Joe could make a contribution in a variety of places. Scott Armstrong would be a referee that could referee every match on the card in his sleep and do a better job than the corpse referee and all the rest of the fucking feckless, limp-dicked refereeing crew that they have there that just allows things to go on for no... And Scott would take motherfucker down if he had to and hold on to him and say, don't bury me, you asshole. Learn to work. Road Dogg, right there, a pipeline to Triple H, but, Road Dogg may, I would think as close as they are, unless Triple H has just been put out to the pasture, he might get a reprieve. But anyway, and Gabe Sapolsky. If Tony, just do with him what you wanted to do with me. Just pick his fucking brain, because he's goddamn amenable enough that he'll come up with ideas for these fucking off-brand high school gymnasts that you goddamn book. But his ideas would be better than yours because he's actually had some for a while. And he didn't just do it in his notebook at night under the covers with a flashlight. He did it professionally. Put it in motion. Just a thought. That's just from me.